Well, we're starting in Parliament House, where the House is contemplating an agreement that would see the takeover of one of the country's thermal plants by independent power producer Ameri. It is one of several agreements that the House is seeking to approve before it expires in the next few days. The Senior Staff Association of the Volta River Authority is, however, cautioning the arrangement would significantly impact electricity tariffs and is urging the House not to approve it. The executives Wednesday paid a visit to Parliament in an attempt to lobby MPs to block the deal. The minority in Parliament has also kicked against the $138.5 million deal to resuscitate the plant, which has been idle for a while now. The minority insists the agreement does not provide value for money. Rather than hand over the T3 plants to an IPP, Chairman of the VRA Staff Association, Cephas Duse, and his colleagues say government should give the VRA the needed resources to run it.
The government of Ghana decided to construct the T3 plants with some support from VRA for VRA to operate. This was done, the project was handed over to VRA to commission and operate. Unfortunately, we ran into some technical challenges where the 4 engines failed. And so the plan had been to try to find ways of repairing that. Somewhere in August, we got a hint that the government wanted to cede the plan to Ameri for them to repower. Our staff group, we raised some concerns with our management and then the board. We got to the ministry and it was agreed that the thing need to be put on hold for some broader consultation, to be done. We were surprised last 2 weeks ago that the Deputy Minister of Power was in Parliament and trying to ask Parliament to approve the deal. Luckily for us, the minority raised some concerns and asked for the deal to be suspended. And so today we had the Parliament to be discussing this again. We have done some work and we are here. The power is in the hands of our members of Parliament. We're hoping and expecting that they will not approve this deal because it will not be in the interest of this country and the Volta River Authority.
Okay, so you've come here to Parliament. Beyond taking the issue to your management and your board, have you sought to draw Parliament's attention directly to why you think is wrong with this deal for which you wouldn't want it passed? You don't answer that.
Oh, yes. In Parliament, a lot of lobbying has to go on. I think to some extent we have done some kind of lobbying, and we are very hopeful that things will go in the favor of the staff leadership, and for that matter, the authority and then Ghanaians at large.
Okay, so when you say you've done some lobbying with the MPs, what exactly have you been telling them? Any specifics on what specifically you think is wrong with the deal for which you think it shouldn't be passed?
Let me just say that we have invested, between VRA and the government of Ghana, we've invested over $270 million US. Now, ceding the plant to Ameri will not help us to recover that investment because Ameri will simply be looking at what they put in and then recovering, which will be less than 100 million, and then recovering 138.5 million at the end of the day. We have to find ways of servicing the $270 million. How do we do that if we are not given the option to repower the plant? What we are saying is that we have made some investment already. Just give us the opportunity between VRA and government of Ghana. Let's find a way of repairing that plant so that we can recover our investment, and then Ghanaians will not end up paying higher tariff capacity charges. For example, we have been asked that VRA staff, because the plant was handed over to us, we've engaged 63 staff who are at post now. What we have been told is that those staffs will work for Ameri, but they will have to be paid for by VRA. Where do we get the funds from too?
Earlier, the minority kicked against a request by government for approval of 3 loans in agreement worth about $300 million, saying decisions on them should be left for the incoming administration. Papu Usuan Kuma and Dr. Anthony Akotose insist their side was not represented at a Finance Committee meeting that approved the loans for referral to the General House. Majority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak, however, disputes the claim.
I'm very much surprised because I called the clerk at 10:30 and I was told that the chairman had just entered. There were not enough members, but the ministers were present. Then I told the clerk that presumably the meeting will not come on. I'm not worried because we had indicated that we are not going to participate in the approval of loans and so forth at committee. But I wanted to make assurance double sure. Now, ask the Honorable Deputy Whip, who is also a member of the committee. But if they say that there were members present and they signed, I don't have a problem with it, except that that will be scrutinized very, very well. Very, very well. I don't think that at this tail end of the life of this parliament, we should be engaged in matters that may provoke certain comments which may be unsavory.
I'm a member of the Finance Committee, and as far as I know, no meeting has been held as a ranking member. But the papers are being presented here, and I'm
meeting in connection with what?
The item number 1 on page 1 of the business statement. My information as a ranking member, we have not met. So I'm wondering who advised the business statement that these papers were ready to represent them. Because the business committee...
Our members, can we have some quiet? I can hardly hear him.
So I just want to know how the business committee is programming the presentation of a report that, as far as...
Majority Chief Whip, can you respond to this?
I was on phone with the chairman of the Finance Committee, and that invitation was extended, and he personally spoke to even the ranking. As to whether he attended or he didn't attend, I'll not be able to tell. But the ranking, the chairman of the Finance Committee says that he just even finished a meeting, and Honorable Sorgo was whispering behind me that as a member of that committee, they were invited to the meeting, and he was at the meeting. So I don't know what my colleague is talking about, that as far as we're concerned, no meeting has been held.
Right, going over now to Parliament, where the House was adjourned for several hours, only to resume sitting in the last hour. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo was monitoring proceedings and joins me with the very latest. So, Joseph, I'd like you to take us through what's been happening, especially what's been happening in the last hour when Parliament resumed sitting.
Well, Israel, the situation is that sometime around 15 minutes ago, the House eventually adjourned sitting. Now, what had happened earlier was that sometime in the afternoon around 12 o'clock, the House began sitting, and that session lasted for just about 20 minutes. Among the issues that had been lined up for discussion and approval included the Ameri deal in question for them to repair the T3 plant, something to the tune of $138.5 million, which was actually the contract that had been brought before the House. One other thing which was also on the table had to do with some 3 other loans amounting to more than $200 million, which the plan was that all of these would be considered. But 20 minutes into the sitting, the Majority Chief Whip, Muntaka Mubarak, indicated to the Speaker and the rest of the members on the floor of the House that, first of all, the documents for all of those discussions were not ready, and additionally, they wanted to bring in a discussion about the Right to Information Bill onto the floor again, and so they wanted the House to adjourn for 1 hour, and then when they resumed, then they would consider all of these. That 1 hour adjournment eventually became a 6-hour adjournment. Sometime around 6 o'clock, the House reconvened. As soon as the House reconvened, the directive was that they wanted to hold a sitting of the House as a committee. What that meant is that members of the public were supposed to step out of the gallery, the media were supposed to step out, the House was sitting as a committee, as a whole, in camera, and that no one would have information as to what exactly they would be discussing. So that went on for a little over an hour and ended about 15 minutes ago. The MPs just walked out. From the indication that I'm getting, the discussions around these deals, that's the RTI, that's the Ameri issue, did not come up in that closed-door session, and the indication is that what that means is now those deals would not be approved after all. In fact, the minority ranking person on the Finance Committee, Dr. Anthony Akotose, I had a brief chat with him when he stepped out of Parliament and was walking into his office. His words are that with what has become now, the Ameri deal, for example, is off the table, and that it's not something that any approval will be given for. Because tomorrow, for example, when the House reconvenes, it should actually be the final sitting before it eventually dissolves on the night of 6th of January, the only item on the agenda is the President's State of the Nation's address, which he would be giving to members of Parliament. No other discussion is expected to go on. And to what that means is that, well, eventually, there's not been the approval for the Ameri deal, and that may have to go well into the life of the next Parliament, as the minority in Parliament had demanded all along, right from when discussions on this started. Easy.
All right, thank you very much, Joseph Gakpo. Just bringing a wrap of what's been happening in Parliament, and it turns out that a number of agreements that were being contemplated by the House, apparently it's not going to be approved. And we're moving on to tomorrow, where the President is expected to deliver his State of the Nation address. Moving on to other stories, in just about 3 days, Nana Akufo-Addo will become President of Ghana and occupy the official residence, the Flagstaff House. Ahead of the official takeover, President Mahama and his vice, Kwesi Arthur, conducted the incoming president and some officials around the seat of government. Ahead of the tour, the two leaders met for a brief discussion in which both lauded each other for their roles in preserving the democratic credentials of Ghana. President Mahama said the need for Nana Akufo-Addo to familiarize himself with his soon-to-be office has necessitated the move.
This complex is the Flagstaff House, and this is where you're going to be working from. And so I thought that in advance of the formal inauguration, we should meet here together and conduct you around so that you familiarize yourself with the establishment and what it all entails. The Chief of Staff and all his technical people are here to walk you through, any information that you would wish to know. Government House is made up of several properties, the Flagstaff House and the villa, which is behind here. We'll get to see it soon. It's got the Vice President's block, and it's got a utility block here that includes a banquet hall and an administration block behind it. And then it's got the old Kwame Nkrumah original Flagstaff House. It's currently in a state of repair, but the intention was to, refurbish it and use it for state events or something like that. All of us, both incoming and outgoing administration, can take a pride that Ghana has become synonymous with democracy, not only in Africa, but I guess the whole world. And I believe that the cooperation that we have shown each other in terms of the transition process is one that should continue. I have said before that Ghana's success is all our success, and we need to work to ensure that government is a continuum and that we continue to build on whatever an outgoing government leaves and another government comes and takes over and builds on it. Governments will come and go, but Ghana must continue to progress.
President-elect Nana Akufo-Addo on his part indicated that this was his first day at the Flagstaff House, even though he was part of discussions prior to the construction of the edifice. And you must note, during his interaction, he didn't indicate it was the Flagstaff House. He preferred to call it the Jubilee House.
It is extremely important for the future of our country that those of us who are called upon to play leadership roles in that journey show the spirit that you have shown ever since the result of this election became clear. It is to your credit, and at the appropriate time, the Ghanaian people will honor you for the grace and the dignity with which you've accepted what happened on the 7th of December. And then for the cooperation that, by and large, by and large, we have also received from you. So I've never been here before. This is my very first time. Even though I had quite a lot to do with the whole concept, because the initial discussions with the Indian government, Arnald Sharma at the time was the foreign minister of India. It was the two of us who actually initially proposed the whole concept, and they would help us for our Jubilee year construct this edifice. But I've never had the opportunity to come. So I'm looking forward eagerly to see what has come out of that initial initiative that was taken. I have no doubt that everything is in order.
Now, the Flagstaff House contains offices and residential facilities for both the president and vice president. Let's take a look at some of the places Nana Akufo-Addo toured.
Yeah, there'll be this security gate there. So once you come there, they open and then you come directly into the No, I've never stayed there. Not even one night. So I don't even know the geography, but somebody else will have to show you what it looks like. It was too big. I mean, I just have my wife and the two small kids at home and our house help. And people don't like how many bedrooms and sitting areas. Nice and too far. This is the presidential wing. This is the state guest house. Everything on this side is the same. That's on the other side. Okay, so let's do.
These facilities are
Well, you're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but still to come, the president-elect today named a number of key persons to some portfolios, including the first female chief of staff for Ghana, Fremos Opare. We'll be back with those details in a bit. Stay tuned. Now, the president-elect Nana Akufo-Addo has named his first set of appointees. They include Brigadier General Emmanuel Otri as National Security Advisor, Kosia Fremos Opare as Chief of Staff, and a Deputy Samuel Abu Jinapo. Other portfolios that came up are Political Assistant to the President, who is also a Deputy Chief of Staff, Francis Asenso Boache, and Director of Research, Victor Newman. Announcing his decision or the appointments to the media, Nana Akufo-Addo stated that the appointees have experience and capabilities to deliver on the roles they have been appointed to. He cautioned, though, that its appointees take office on December. A
young man who's been my press secretary, media secretary for the last 3 or 4 years, and whom I have found to be extremely dedicated and efficient in the work that he's done. A great deal of the information and the publicity about what I'm doing, what our party has been doing, our positions on matters that have been fed to the Ghanaian people have been filtered through him. And he will be the Director of Communications at the presidency. So this is a very rounded woman who has many sides to her, and I think that the office that she's going to occupy will be one where her experience and multifaceted personality will be able to deal with very effectively. The next is the Secretary to the President. Once again, I believe this is a person of quality and who will be able to help me in the job of President as my Secretary. He's done a yeoman's job for me as my political assistant, as it was stage manager, especially the successful campaign that we have just been through. And I have no doubt that he has to the office of Deputy Chief of Staff and will be another real pillar in the office. These appointments are appointments that will take effect from the 6th of January. That is, if I survive the oath-taking ceremony and I come out of it.
All right, so let's take a look at the appointments that were made today. Of course, the first of them being Brigadier General Emmanuel Otri. He's a National Security Advisor. And also there's Joshua Trema. He's a National Security Coordinator. So he's a product of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and a former director of the Bureau of National Investigations. He worked at the BNI for about 22 years, where he served at command levels in the northern, upper East Ashanti and Greater Accra regions. And then the first female chief of staff, Frima Osopari, she's 69 years old. She's a development consultant and a labor and employment expert with 40 years of experience in these fields. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Home Science from the University of Ghana and a Master's degree from the University of Guelph, Canada. She was a lecturer at the University of Ghana, Legon, from 1976 to 1982 rather. Consultant for the United Nations and the Women in Fisheries program in countries such as Uganda, Ethiopia, Congo, Kenya, and Namibia. She was also Deputy Minister for Manpower, Youth and Employment from 2005 to 2008. And then Abu Jinapo is the Deputy Chief of Staff. And in his case, he's 33 years old, very young man there. He first graduated from the KNU ST. Then we move on to, okay, so still on Abu Jinapo, he earned a bachelor's degree from the law faculty at the University of Ghana in 2010. Now let's move on to Francis Asenso Boachi. He's also Deputy Chief of Staff. He's 39 years old and holds a BSc degree in development planning from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He has a master's degree in public policy administration from the Michigan State University and a certificate in public sector management from Tulane University, Louisiana, USA. He is a development planning, project management and policy specialist with over 15 years of wide-ranging professional experience in his field. And then Nana Asante Bedueto, he's Executive Secretary to the President. A brief wrap on him. He's 53 years old. He's a lawyer with over 20 years experience practicing law. He was educated in Ghana, the United Kingdom, and the United States, where he obtained a Doctor of Law degree from the New York University. And he was called to the bar in New York, Ghana, and is a member of both bars. He is currently the managing partner at Amping Chambers, a corporate law firm in Ghana. He's married with 4 children, and he is a very flamboyant lawyer at that. And then Eugene Ahin, he's quite a darling to the media because most people say he's really a very humble guy because of his humility. He's 33 years old as well, same as Jinapo. He graduated from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in 2006 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Materials Engineering. And then Lord Comey, very familiar face to people in the New Patriotic Party. He's 48 years old. He's an accomplished entrepreneur and an astute politician known for his tactical, operational, and organizational acumen. He was national organizer of the New Patriotic Party for 8 years. Prior to that, he served as a Greater Accra Regional Secretary for the party. And then there's also Victor Newman. Now, Victor Newman, he's Director of Research. Victor Newman is 69 years old. He's an economist, consultant, financial and research analyst. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in a Greek economist with postgraduate qualifications in development planning and budget and financial management. And then there's also Hassan Ahmed. He's the Director of State Protocol, and he's 62 years old. He holds a master's degree from the Georgetown School of Foreign Service and has been a career diplomat with Ghana's diplomatic service for 34 years, having served in Saudi Arabia, Denmark, Cuba, and Japan, where he was Deputy Chief of Mission. He was Chief of Protocol at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs when the President-elect was Foreign Minister. His last posting was to the Islamic Republic of Iran, where he served as Ghana's ambassador from 2008 to 2012. We also have one Saratu Atta. Now, Saratu Atta is going to be the personal assistant to the president. She's 53 years old. She's a graduate of the University of Warwick, UK, and holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Politics and International Studies. She worked as a securities trader at the first securities discount house in Lagos, Nigeria from 1993 to 1997, and then went on to establish her own security printing company in Lagos. So then we also have Albert Kandapa, who's going to be the National Security Minister. Now, Chief of Staff Akusia Frema Opare and her Deputy Samuel Abujinapo spoke to Joy News after the announcement on what they bring on board.
I look forward to serving His Excellency and by that extension, the people of Ghana.
Very big position, Chief of Staff, the first woman to occupy such a high-profile office. How are you going to link your office between the party, the governance to make it work as effective as possible?
Well, I may look young, but I'm not.
Absolutely.
In the sense that I do come with some experience that I think will help. Having managed a department, University of Ghana, that is the Home Science Department, as the acting head of department. I've had lots of managerial experience, having managed 2 big programs in Ghana. I worked as the senior program coordinator for SNV, Netherlands Development Organization. So I think I come with that skill. And also, if I may say so, the last couple of years, since I would say September 2016 and 2013, I've been coordinating NANE's political affairs until today.
What I bring on board is really a lot of dynamism, intellect, brilliance, in all humility and modesty, paramountly to support the Chief of Staff. But that is going to be my role. My role will be to support the Chief of Staff, for her to discharge her mandate in a manner that the President will be successful, in a manner that the government of President Akufo-Addo will be successful. So I'm gearing up and I'm poised to give the Chief of Staff, Madam Frema, Mrs. Opare, the needed support.
All right, so these are names, the names that were put out today by the President-elect, names that earlier on my colleague Evans mentioned. He had an exclusive, well, he had a preview of it, or he had foreknowledge of it.
Yeah, we talked about it
so
a
we
couple
had
of days, yeah.
the discussion a couple of days. So it's been confirmed, virtually all the names that we mentioned. Now, there's been some reactions to it. What are your views, or what are you gathering from all that has been said in the last few hours since the appointments were made?
I mean, if you look at the national security appointments, that's where there's been a lot of, I guess, comment since the announcement. We have 3 different portfolios. So the National Security Advisor, National Security Coordinator, and for the very first time in a long while, we have the Minister for National Security. Now, just coming off Newsnight, viewer concerns, listener concerns is that isn't that superfluous to have 3 different national security positions when you have a minister? If you listen to an expert who knows this area better than most, Dr. Kwesieni, he welcomes the structure that Nado has laid out. In fact, he says that to have a national security, a minister for national security, who will be subject to Parliament's because he has to be approved by Parliament, means that when BNI is misbehaving, and we all know in our history, BNI has become, such, a monster, every time there's concerns about the way they are abusing people's rights. Anytime we have that, you can now bring the minister in to answer for that, because they will all sort of sit under his watch. And again, the minister needs to go to Parliament to justify his budget. So for the first time, we have all these institutions now being accountable to the people's
answerable
to people's representative. And he thinks that's a good thing to have.
But how about coordination? We have these three people. Are they able to work together effectively?
Well, I guess the jury is still out there. We'll see how this plays out going forward. Because my question to him, and I still haven't got a good convincing answer, is we still have the Ministry of Interior. Okay, then you have another minister for national security, and we all know that the police, etc., they all fall under the so the fear of having duplication is there, and somebody needs to clearly define for us which agencies will be under the Minister of National Security, and which agencies will be under the Interior Minister. That for me will be a key question to answer, and then defining their roles very clearly so that they don't have. I mean, they definitely will interact, but so we don't have duplication. And again, maybe we're assuming it's not possible for there not to be a Minister of Interior. So we expect that will be.
We probably have to wait, I guess,
and see. Yes, but that's not concerns. Then you move on to the other appointments, the Chief of Staff area. We discussed that quite extensively. Of course, Fremont Parliamentary was not a surprise. But if you watch what the conversation has been in social media, the main commentary has been around Abu Jinapor. And of course, he addressed the point about what his role is going to be. He says he's going to support Fremont Parliamentary to succeed. We've spoken to him, myself, tonight, and put that question to him, the question about people's concerns that he's not experienced, people question his loyalty, etc., etc. You should listen to Nakufo. I don't know if you played that sound.
We played that.
When he introduced him. There's something he said for me that was instructive, and I pointed that out the last time we spoke. Now this says, since his undergrad days, this is a man who has been by my side, a close aide, an errand boy, running around giving me a sense of what the youth is thinking. This is undergrad. This is a man who now has a master's and is also seeking another degree currently. So you can see there's a huge time lag, close to a decade.
That he's known him.
That he's known him and been by his side. But people look at the public and what has transpired publicly and say he disappeared from the scene, went to pursue his private degree, and somehow when victory was beckoning, he finds his way back. Nanado himself, who appoints him, says he's been by my side since his undergrad days. So for me, that should settle it. When we spoke to him, he himself, I think, he said something that struck me. The humility with which he accepted the criticism. In fact, he said, I don't know if you listen, he said, I accept the criticism, and the fact that he says those who are concerned about my appointment only are concerned because they believe they want Nanado to succeed. And so they see somebody, they don't know whether he can do it. They have that concern. He accepts that. And that he sees it as an inspiration, a challenge for him to do more, to justify Nanado's faith in him and to succeed. The reason why I'm saying that is important is, in the past, people are comparing where we just came from. The young men and women, he's possibly going to be the youngest chief of staff we've seen, deputy chief of staff, 33 years old he is, that we've seen, who were criticized like this. The way they came out fighting and dismissing everybody, he has conceded and said, I accept what you said, I take your criticism as an inspiration, and for me that's a sign of maturity.
But then again, talking about his age, which 33 years, pretty young. Yeah. People then look at the 33 years of the young ones, they blend between the young and the old, because you're seeing Fimoso Opare, who's 69 years old and has deputies who are that young, and people are saying probably this is the way to go.
Absolutely. It's a blend of, experience, and youth there. And if you notice the appointments, there's always somebody at the top who is, Opare is 60 plus. He's been 69. There. She's seen it all, almost 70. And so he has two young deputies. One is 33 years, one is 39 years or so, I think. So it's not like they've just been thrown out there. They have a supervisor who is very experienced. And talking about ages, though, and we need to dig into democracies, histories of democracies who have gone far ahead of us. In the U.S., I've just been privileged to be watching a documentary on just a couple of days ago on the Discovery Channel. It's titled The President's Gatekeepers. I don't know if you watch it. It's a very fantastic documentary about the chief of staff in the U.S. In 1962, there's the 39th president of the United States, Lyndon Johnson, had a chief of staff. The second chief of staff was called Jim Jones. He was 28 years old. I watched it, I'm like, so what's the big deal? For the whole United States of America, to have a chief of staff who is 28 years old. Ghana, what? We are 20-something years old.
That was then.
Well, but that was United States.
A lot has changed.
So my point is, even his reaction to the criticism alone shows maturity beyond the age that he's bringing to the table, that we simply need to give him a chance to succeed or fail, then we can judge him. But from the evidence of what his first utterance so far, I say he's shown some maturity, and give him the benefit of the doubt until maybe he proves us wrong.
All right. Thank you very much, Evan Spencer. We're taking a break on Joy News Prime. We'll come back. Right, you're watching Joy News Prime Time now for a recap of our top stories. President-elect Nana Addo Akufo-Addo has named development consultant and labor development expert Fremos Opare as Ghana's first female chief of staff in another wave of appointments with just days to his inauguration. And Akufo-Addo, meanwhile, got a presidential tour of the seat of government, which he prefers to refer to by its original name, Jubilee House. While in Parliament, in apparent disagreement over a number of loan agreements and bills, government wants to push through stalled proceedings in the House for several hours, with the senior staff of the state power producer VRA kicking against one of the agreements. It says will result in higher electricity tariffs. While eventually Parliament adjourned without approving any of the agreements. In business, bank customers have been urged to be more circumspect in their dealings with bank staff following the Stanbic episode in which a bank official is said to have made away with 900,000 Ghana cedis of depositors' funds. Right, so now, veteran lawyer and former president of the Ghana Bar Association, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, has described President Mohammed's last-minute appointments as serious legal errors. According to him, President Mohammed's actions are in contravention of the provisions of the transitional laws which bar the president from making such last-minute appointments. He made these submissions in an exclusive interview with Joy News' Favor Nunu.
I believe that those were very serious errors. Because you see, I heard one of the ministers saying that Uba is in government, he must still govern. I said, no, you're nonsense. You are in government, you are governing. You are appointing people you are not going to work with. So how can you say it is government? That is not the issue. You were there all this period. Those people, some were in acting position, you didn't appoint them. If you thought that they were competent enough for your job, you should have appointed them while you were there. You know, there is something about the transitional law that people are not even addressing their minds to. If you read that law carefully, it says that 30 days before the election, not 30 days after the election, 30 days before the election, you're supposed to prepare and hand over. Now, let me ask a simple question. Those appointments you are making, was that part of your handing over note?
30 days before the election.
Exactly.
No.
They were not. So technically, it is illegal. It's in contradiction of the transitional provisions law. And the transitional provision was made because they were making argument that, oh, Kufuor did. I say, what you are talking about is nonsense, because Kufuor time, that law did not exist. That law was made because people saw that there was a need for it to prevent government from doing certain things in the last minute. When they lose the election, they'll go and start doctoring documents and doing all manner of things. That was the reason why that law was made, to ensure that 30 days before the election, you prepare your handing over note. If you are re-elected, no problem. You hand over to yourself. A minister will hand over to the new minister you are going to appoint. He may be the same person, but he may be a new person. That was the whole basis for it. But when your government is defeated, it means that the incoming government can go and take documents, examine them carefully, and check them, cross-check them, even question you and say, this and this you said is not available.
So that for you, 30 days to the elections, all of these things about your government should have been
come to an end,
compiled in that document and handed over to the administration.
Exactly. This question about you still president, nobody's still president, but you are only doing what we call administrative matters.
But assuming Ghana is in a war situation as it stands,
we are
who
not,
will act?
We are not.
We have a president-elect and we have a sitting president. Who would be the one to take the decision?
The president was the one who will take us to war. But
so it means that he still has the power.
No, that's why I say you are misconstruing the matter. You see, when you talk about emergency situation arising, you don't compare an emergency situation to what is normal.
But it all falls within the execution of the powers that he holds as president.
It's a complete misconception. When there is an emergency situation, you do emergency powers to deal with it. When there is a normal situation, you don't use emergency situation to deal with normal situation. That actually is the rule. So let's get our perceptions clear.
Now, some newly constructed schools and hospitals will be locked by Friday if government fails to pay contractors. Certificates for payment are outstanding. This is because the Association of Building and Civil Engineering Contractors, Volta Region, has vowed the members will lock up these facilities they have put up for government for which they are outstanding payment. At a news conference in Ho, addressed by its secretary, Manuel Afatogbo, the association said members would block access to the various project sites if government fails to pay outstanding certificates by Friday, January 6. The vice chairman of the association, Adesing Bedu, said they have resorted to this action because government promised to pay all outstanding certificates before the elections and reneged on the promise.
The contractors who sacrifice their resources to execute these projects stand a chance of liquidation and loss of livelihood as a result of the inability of government to pay for these projects. It is important to note that all these projects are pre-financed by contractors by whatever means available, especially from banks and financial institutions. Get Fund, who is the major defaulter, those contractors unpaid certificates spanning over 6 months. Most of these locally based contractors depend on funding from the banks, and interest obviously accrue on the sums borrowed, sometimes to the extent that the certificate value gets consumed by the banks, leaving the contractors nothing to pay their workers or their suppliers. This action by government has rendered most companies redundant, with debt lingering on their heads. It is interesting to note that government does not pay interest on delayed payments in the building sector. To pay up monies owed its contractors by Friday, the 6th of January 2017, our members will have no option than to lock up the facilities or block roads they sacrifice to construct, for which the government is taking all the credit without paying for.
Normally, before any government will exit, he would like to pay all his indebtedness to people they owe. So we are hoping that it will come to classroom blocks. It's easy to go and lock up the place. It's very easy. So even road to is also easy for us to do. And the hospitals as well.
Construction of roads and establishment of industrial hubs may provide good markets for siting schools. The long-term effect on humans and environment could however be damaging. Scientists say location of schools along major roads, industrial zones and automobile shops pose health risk, especially to children. Results of a study published in the global journal Cogent Chemistry suggested the potential of learning difficulty among such children. Kwesi Debra reports.
Building of schools along roads is not a bad thing. There is accessibility and also visibility. But what if fumes from car exhaust can one day attack your mental faculty? Researchers collected dust from 20 selected nursery and kindergarten classrooms in Kumasi. Faisal M.R. Karafi Prize recipient of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology is a lead scientist.
We collaborated with a friend in Switzerland about 3 years ago on
levels of toxic substances in street dust. So from that research, I was like, if there could be this much toxic in street dust, then why don't you extend the project to other areas? And then the issue of children came in, because I'm very much interested in women and children being the most vulnerable in the society. So I said, okay, looking at basic schools in Ghana, most of our basic schools have floors that are dusty, playgrounds that are dusty, and I've observed a collection of dust in some classrooms. So let's look at the composition of heavy metals in these classrooms and see if these kids are actually being exposed to something harmful.
Dust samples were then analyzed for the presence of cobalt, chromium, mercury, lead, and cadmium. Some amounts of these metals were present in some of the samples, except cadmium, which was not detected. Exposure to heavy metals potentially has serious health implications. They may find their way into the human body and destroy the brain, the spinal cord, and the internal organs. The study team found cobalt, chromium, mercury, and lead levels below World Health Organization acceptable standards. That means they pose no immediate health threat.
But the levels were not high compared to international WHO standards, permissible limits. So they are there, but at the moment they are not harmful. The levels that are found are not potentially harmful to the children. However, when we talk about heavy metals, we talk about bioaccumulation. That is the ability of the levels to add on over time. If you have this amount today, because they don't degrade, tomorrow if you get another exposure, they add on and add on. That's what we call bioaccumulation. Because the possibility of bioaccumulation is still a matter of concern, because over time these children could be exposed.
Schools in and around Swami in Kumasi were found to have lead and chromium levels above 19 other areas studied. Activities at automobile mechanic shops sited 10 meters away from the schools are found to be the cause. Exhaust fumes, engine wear, leaks and spillage from batteries and radiators, among others, release lead into the environment.
As much as possible, I think there should be a radius within which schools should be sited, as far as industry is concerned, so that if an industry, manufacturing industry, which has the possibility of people to its toxic effluents, is sited at a place, then there should be a distance, radius within which schools should be sited, especially schools for children, so that these kids are not exposed to these potentially toxic substances which come from these industries.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Debra.
The General Secretary of the National Democratic Party, Mohamed Frimpong, has asked the incoming NPP administration to robustly prosecute and any corrupt act that has been exposed in the previous government. At a news conference on Wednesday, Mr. Frimpong said the party will fully support the NPP in this exercise.
Two, we're also seeking change, okay? More particularly, we were seeking change, a change that NDP will take over or any other government. And we catalyzed the process. We were catalysts to the process. So for us, defeat is not a word, but rather we had what we term a change percent. And that change percent to us was 100%. So NDP was never, even though, yes, we are not in charge, we thought that we had achieved what we advocated.
Now, asked whether the party is lobbying for any position in the Nana Akufo-Addo administration, flag bearer Nana Konadu Rawlings could not deny this emphatically. Instead, she called on the media to exercise patience and not put the cart before the horse.
It's important for us to realize that the profession of change, or the trumpeting of change, was based on certain realistic situations that were going on. I mean, we went to the regions, we went to villages, we saw the impoverishment of people, we saw the pathetic look on children's faces, we saw the malnourishment that I particularly have not seen since 1983. So it is not for us to say X, Y, Z, but it's for us to look at the realistic situation And then wherever things are not going the way we want it to go, we can have an input to say, okay, we were in Sheshe, we were in Chibedia, that this is what we saw, whether it's in the medical area, in the health, in the educational area, in food and nutrition, or bad roads or whatever, then at least we can do that. But I don't think we should put the cart before the horse.
Right up next, we bring you entertainment.